Number 10. Original idea for a Batman Begins sequel. Even before the completion of Batman Begins, screenwriter David S. Goyer was planning an outline of sequels, particularly a second and third installment. His original vision of where the sequels would go was quite different to what we ended up with on screen. Originally, the Joker was going to appear in the second and third entries, and it was the third movie that was to introduce the character of Two-Face, with the Joker scarring Harvey Dent during his trial, which leads to him becoming Two-Face, which is more in tune with Two-Face's origin story in the comics. It was also in these early stages of planning the sequels that Warner Bros. Officially put the movie into production, with the title The Dark Knight, making it the first live-action Batman movie not to feature the name Batman in the titles. Number 9. Christopher Nolan wasn't going to return for the sequels. After Christopher Nolan wrapped up filming Batman Begins, which rejuvenated the franchise after the abysmal Batman and Robin, Nolan was more than willing and ready to part ways with The Dark Knight, despite ending Batman Begins with something of a cliffhanger that suggests that there will be a sequel featuring the Joker. I guess it was put there for another director to come in and steer the franchise with the next installment. So after Batman Begins, Nolan went on to make The Prestige, which also starred Christian Bale. And while making that film, the idea of doing a movie featuring the Joker, aka the greatest and most celebrated comic book villain of all time, just seemed too irresistible to pass up. So he teamed up with his brother Jonathan Nolan and David S. Goyer to write the follow-up to Batman Begins, where they took inspiration from several DC comics, such as The Dark Knight Returns and The Long Halloween. Heck, Nolan even took inspiration from the Joker's very first comic book appearance, with an emphasis on the Joker's madness, but maybe not so much Bruce Wayne's pipe-smoking habits. Weird. And The Dark Knight would become the first sequel that Christopher Nolan would work on, as he originally had no interest in making movie sequels. He wanted to make Christopher Nolan movies, not Batman movies. Number 8. Themes of escalation. A prominent theme that Nolan wanted to explore in The Dark Knight was the theory of escalation, a sort of cause and effects method, of one event happening, which in tow triggers off another series of events as a consequence. He felt that a common theme in the comic books was Batman's presence alone often being the creation of crazy and insane villains in Gotham City, which kind of asks the question, is having Batman as Gotham's protector a good thing if his very presence itself leads to the creation of some of the city's most feared and disturbing villains? Nolan expressed interest in the lunacy that would be created in a city where a man who dresses up as a bat takes the law into his own hands. And thus the Joker in The Dark Knight is the twisted product and result of Batman himself, of which in a cruel twist of fate would also lead to the tragic creation of Two-Face. Number 7. Several actors wanted to play the Joker. The first thing that stands out in everyone's minds when talking about The Dark Knight is Heath Ledger's Joker. His haunting yet mesmerizing performance of the comic book villain is without a doubt one of the most celebrated movie performances of all time, and the performance completely steals the movie. However, before Ledger was cast in the role, several actors had expressed interest in playing the Clown Prince of Crime, such as Steve Carell, Adrian Brody, Paul Bettany, and of course Robin Williams. Williams apparently tried to get the role of the Joker for the 1989 Tim Burton movie, as well as the Riddler for Batman Forever, with no luck, and had already worked with Nolan on Insomnia, so he probably would have seemed like an ideal choice. However, Nolan chose Heath Ledger because he had wanted to work with him on several projects, but Ledger was unavailable. So it was purely for that reason that we got the spectacular performance that is Heath Ledger's Joker. Number 6. Other casting possibilities. Okay, all this talk of the Joker. Let's not forget Harvey Dent. After all, it's actually Dent's story, as he is the character in the movie who goes through the most character development, with a real Shakespearean tragedy approach about it. Several actors were considered for the part. Future Hulk star Mark Ruffalo auditioned but wasn't cast. Matt Damon and Hugh Jackman were contacted, but they couldn't commit due to filming schedules. Ryan Phillippe had expressed interest in the role, but once again, nothing came of it. Nolan cast Aaron Eckhart because he felt that he had a Robert Redford American hero quality about him. and had actually wanted to cast Eckhart in the lead of Memento before casting Guy Pearce. So Aaron Eckhart it was. Katie Holmes, who played the character of Rachel Dawes in Batman Begins, was set to return to play the character in The Dark Knight. However, she dropped out of the project to star in Mad Money instead. When it came time to recasting, Emily Blunt and Rachel McAdams were considered, but Maggie Gyllenhaal was cast in the role. And I'm sorry to say this, and I don't mean any disrespect to Holmes, but I think it just worked out for the best, as she does a much better job in the role. Yeah, sorry, but there's just no getting around it. So, Holmes passed on The Dark Knight, a movie that's gone on to become a classic, to star in Mad Money, a comedy movie that I've never even heard of until now. Whoops. Number 5, Ledger's preparation for the role. There is something of an urban legend that in order to get himself in the mindset to play the Joker, Heath Ledger actually went mad. Well, we can't know that for sure, as that would involve getting into Heath Ledger's psyche while making The Dark Knight. But what is apparent is to get himself prepared for the role, he locked himself in a hotel room for weeks, trying to find the right voice and mannerisms for the part, till he finally discovered his Joker that he was satisfied with. Ledger's Joker supposedly takes inspiration from Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols, as well as Alex from A Clockwork Orange, along with his voice being inspired by Tom Waits. And yes, Ledger did actually have the infamous Joker diary that he had created while developing the character, which is like the key to Ledger's mind while creating the Joker. It's almost disturbing. Number 4, original Joker and Two-Face designs. For this interpretation of the Joker, it was decided to scrap the falling into toxic waste subplot, and to give the Joker a Glasgow smile. And before we got the final look that we all know and love, there were several designs depicting how the